Hello everybody and welcome to another round of the Operation Mosport eMotorsport iRacing League as we take on our only trip across the border into Canada for the penultimate round of our season. Next week at the end of the round at the Virginia International Raceway, we will crown 3 champions in our 3 classes. But who are they going to be? Well, we'll be one step closer to finding out tonight with myself, Ian O'Leary, and Ron Mounds in commentary with Hugo Louise behind the cameras of this Racebot TV broadcast tonight. Ron, good to be alongside you. GT3 Racing here at Mosport in our only trip to Canada. It's a very, very difficult circuit, especially on this iRacing build. The rises and falls leave no room for error because the modern tarmac runoff out of turn 2 in particular, and some other places though, are not present in this build of iRacing, and that, I think, makes for a much more challenging and better racetrack overall.
Yeah, I gotta say this is probably going to be one of the most challenging races for these drivers all throughout this season. You brought up 2 fantastic points there, Ewan. This is an old scan of this track. It's incredibly bumpy, really no safe runoff area to speak of. You hit that grass and you're just gonna slide off into the barrier. So looking through this absolutely awesome calendar that we've had for this Operation eMotorsport season here for season number 11, this is probably the race that these drivers had circled as the one where they had to be the most careful, and especially so since we have some championship battles to talk about. Probably very important just to make it through this race and get clean on the other end of it. Make sure you have a clean race car by the end of this race tonight.
We haven't reminded you, of course, of the classes for a few weeks, so we'll do that again because it is important, very important in this series. We've got 3 championships, but obviously 4 classes to look at here. The beneficiary class drivers, first of all, anyone who's enrolled as an Operation Motorsport beneficiary. A Pro Ben class driver has the same requirements, but also meets the below Pro class requirements, which I'll go through in a moment. Open class is open to any serving military member or veteran not enrolled as an Operation eMotorsport beneficiary, any staff member, volunteer or supporter of Operation Motorsport, or other participants on a case-by-case basis as determined by the eMotorsport's manager. Now for those Pro Class drivers who are either also beneficiaries or not, any competition license holder, past or present in any of the top series like IMSA, SRO, or any other equivalent series, any iRacing A-Class road license driver, an iRating of 1900 or higher and a safety rating of 3.99 or higher as well required to be in the Pro class. And that gives us the championship standings that we'll see in a moment, 2 of which are exceptionally close. This is the one that isn't quite as also one of the 3 very, very close. Not this one though. As you can see, Louis Rios has been leading by quite a while. 34 points his current gap. If he beats Philippe Chartier today, he will be champion. Nolan Yuke is too far away now, you'd probably say, with John Hicks the same. In fact, everybody the same actually. Tanner Masters not that far in front of drivers behind like Cameron Lackney and David Bell, John Salado as well. Cody Durkin and Peter McDade are at the back of the field, having not been at so many rounds so far this season. In the open standings, it's pretty similar. 27 points here, so it gets a bit more complicated for Bessett and Francisco Vega, who's been trying to keep him close, but look at how close it is for second. Tyler Manning and Mason Cardinell are only 2 points behind Vega, with Nicholas Batista a bit further back in 5th. The first driver who can't win the championship from there, you would say. Carl Shelton, Tyler Beeman, Zach Merrill, Andrew Cooper, Jacob Little, and that's it for the top 10, the open class standings. And this is the one that is really close. Tyler Guillemette leads by just 1 point ahead of Ian Carney, with Matt Smubman only 13 points back after missing last week's race. He is back with a vengeance tonight though, and was just going very well in practice, as we'll see in a moment. He's going well in qualifying as well. Martin Wallace was leading the championship earlier on this season as well. He's now 18 points behind. Waiting to see whether he will make it. Indeed, he will make an appearance tonight up towards the front, so he's one to watch. Chris Walsh is there or thereabouts as well. So Skylar Vicroy, who is 38 back, needs to gain points on whoever is going to be the championship leader by the end of the day. So needs to gain on Guillemette and Carney. Those who are probably out of it: Gene Kelly, Ken Copeland, who's missed the last few rounds but is back for the last couple of weeks, Jonathan Labby, and Rodney Campbell, who rounds out the Pro field. Here are the current standings. Tyler Manning actually leading the way in the overall, but Matt Smotherman is leading the Pros. It is a class-based system for the points scoring here, by the way, so it doesn't particularly matter where you are overall. It only matters where you are in your class, and at the moment Tyler Manning is leading that. He's one of those drivers who needs to gain points on Justin Bassett here today, and this is why penultimate rounds, Ron, are always so exciting, because anybody, in theory, any class leader can actually win their class here tonight, but also it could get a lot closer, setting up for an exciting finale next week.
Yeah, as much as there's always so much attention on the season finale, you just hit the nail right on the head there, Ewan, because these penultimate rounds, there's so much at stake. You can find yourself in a clinching situation. You'd also find yourself really losing out to your competitors. So this is going to be a very important race. I talked about it right at the top of the show, and you raised that point as well, talking about the nature of the circuit. Very challenging, very old school. This track has not been changed ever since they built it many moons ago. Hosted the first ever Canadian Grand Prix all the way back in the 60s. This is an old school blast from the past racetrack and an old school blast from the past scan here as well. Super tough for these competitors just to try and keep it on the road. These GT3, these well-honed GT3 machines, usually like a smooth racing surface, and want to have a little bit of runoff area in the midst as well, just in case things go a little bit awry. That is two things that you do not have here. So these racers, even in this qualifying session, just trying to find as much pace as they can. Going to be a very tough ask as we see Ken Copeland at his way down off into the final few corners.
The winner of the first 2 weeks in a row from Daytona and Laguna Seca, one a lot more dominantly than the other, if that's a word. But Ken Copeland comes up towards the line now and does take pole position, at least provisionally, here at Mosport, just under 4 tenths in front of Martin Wallace, who previously held that post. This is Tyler Manning now, who's into the final couple of corners as well. Shaping up to be a very exciting qualifying session, I've got to say, as he comes through the final couple of corners right now. And out of the final turn, where is Manning going to go? He's still going to be on open class pole as Tyler Reid comes over the line within 2 tenths of him, but not any closer. And it is a retaking of the pole from Tyler Manning. The open class and pro class drivers generally are very close in terms of speed, so don't be alarmed if either of them take pole. It is normal. They've shared it roughly 50% with each, but Manning and Copeland are having a brilliant battle at the moment in a session that continues to just get quicker.
Yeah, these drivers finding time in every single opportunity, maybe trying to utilize a little bit of draft heading down that massively long Mario Andretti straightaway here at CTMP, the longest flat-out blast on this racetrack by a rather significant margin, but you do have the yin with the yang. So many medium to high-speed corners around this racetrack. Will lose that if you get too much dirty air, as we see Beeman come across the line, and he jumps his way up into P7, so does gain slightly as Bradley Beeman jumps up to P4 right there at the exact same time. Well done from the driver of the number 11 car.
Louis Rioch up to 8th place in the beneficiaries class as Ken Copeland goes to the top. Haven't seen too much of Martin Wallace so far, but he's been going pretty quickly, and he's only a quarter of a second away from Ken Copeland at the moment as well. First sector a couple of a tenth away or two. The second sector even further away. I don't think this is going to be the time for Wallace, but he will have another lap at the end of this one. It looks like Bradley Beeman's session is going to be pretty much over unless he gets out immediately. 15.2 there is going to be right in the midfield there. Tyler Guillemette comes over the line right now. Does he get ahead of Wallace maybe Beeman? Yes, he does get ahead of Beeman. Took a while to come through. Justin Bassett, as Swumler moves up to second place, is right in the slipstream of another open class driver at the moment, and not a great qualifier. At least hasn't been the last few weeks, but it's been the races where he's really gained the points, and that is why he's leading this championship at the moment by 27 points. If he finishes far enough ahead of some of his rivals tonight, he could be the champion, but really he's just looking to consolidate the strong position he currently finds himself in.
Yeah, if you try swinging for the fences in a race like this, you mentioned it earlier on, and you could put yourself in a massive hole and really apply some even more pressure to yourself as we head off into the season finale in just 1 week's time. You want to try and do well here tonight. You don't need to shoot for the stars, try and clinch that championship and be the hero of the day, because around a track like this, that's usually the way that you go from hero to zero. So these competitors just need to maintain focus on that ultimate prize. Don't get caught up too much in the drama and the chaos of a race that may lie ahead in this qualifying session as well. Don't try and go for all that glory, because that's usually when it ends poorly.
This is Mats Mummerman, just under 2 tenths of a second behind Ken Copeland at the moment, and he comes through the final corner right now to challenge him, you'd imagine. No, he won't. 16.5, that is a backing off ahead of another lap here. Rodney Campbell's just outside the top 10, looking to be the only the 5th pro to get inside the top 10 here at the expense of Louis Rioch. If he possibly can, he needs a a low 15 really, at least, to manage that, and he's not going to have it. 15.6 is his best. or at least his last. There comes Carl Shelton. Pretty busy out there once again here tonight. A big grid, 30 drivers. We've seen it hovering just over 30 for most of the season, between 30 and 40 certainly. We've kept numbers very, very consistent over this season, which has been absolutely fantastic to see. Shelton goes over the line there and will stay in that position. So the checker flag comes out now, and who's going to be coming over the line in the next few moments to actually take these last opportunities here. Martin Wallace looking pretty strong, I've got to say. Matt Smotherman as well is just behind him, so the two of them are running pretty much nose to tail. Wallace, though, is going to come across the line first. He's currently in 4th place, and he does need to challenge Smotherman if he's going to be up towards the front, with Guillemette and Carney currently 1 and 2. Guillemette is only in 5th at the moment in this qualifying session. Over the line for Martin Wallace, he doesn't go any faster on this occasion. In fact, he went into the pit lane. What about Matt Smotherman? Does he carry on? He tries and he gets close, but it's not enough. It's not quite enough. He's very, very close, though. 22 thousandths of a second behind Ken Copeland in this pole position battle. Tyler Manning now the only other driver who can take that away from Ken Copeland, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to. Copeland looks like he's going to survive with Smotherman's late challenge there.
Yeah, fantastic time from Copeland to be able to put a stranglehold on that pole position. We'll see if anybody can maybe put in a good quick lap time right at the end. Here's Luis Rios as he heads his way through the final corner in that number 10 Mustang, currently slotted in P10 here in this qualifying session. What time can he set? Not looking very good through the sectors. He will remain in that spot. It's Ken Copeland gonna give us a nice drift hang out of the final corner to ring in this qualifying session. Copeland, a driver that I have experience with on other shows here on Race Spot, here in Operation Motorsports as well last season. Very, very talented racer. He knows how to wheel that Corvette quite well.
He certainly does. Unfortunately, he's missed 2 rounds to be a feature in the championship this season, but he is on pole here for the penultimate round, ahead of Matt Smotherman, who is alongside. Tyler Manning's taken the open class pole position with Martin Wallace alongside. It is Tyler Guillemette then ahead of Bradley Beeman. Guillemette, by the way, will be the definitive championship leader here because he is Ian Carney is not here today. Tyler Reid and Tyler Beeman then share row 4 of the first open class row. Jeremy Jukic and Louis Rios round out the top 10. Rios currently in 10th place in a championship clinching position as it stands. Then it's Mason Cardinal and Carl Shelton. The first drivers outside that top 10. First drivers over a second off of pole is Rodney Campbell and Skylar Vicroy. Jacob Little and Justin Bessett then on row 8. Bessett a long way back for the Open Class Championship leader, with Jonathan Labby and Zach Merrill then on row 9. That top 20 is rounded out by Nicolas Batista and Cameron Burke, with Nolan Uke second in the beneficiaries class, 11 places behind the first place driver in that class. Justin Wells is in 22nd place ahead of Rui Farina, with Zach Pritchard alongside John Hickson, Chris Glandon at row 13 ahead of John Salada and Dan Fendick, the first driver over 2 seconds off pole. Then the gaps get larger for Eric Knight and Philip Chartier, who round out the field. 30 drivers as it is. Chartier, by the way, is the only challenger to Rios here, and as I said earlier, he needs to outscore him and hope for a miracle, really, because he's a long way back in terms of points at the moment. Ken Copeland needs to hope for a miracle as well, and one that is not going to arrive, you would say. With a 73-point gap, he would need to gain every single point possible, of which he has gained the first. He's gained the pole position point, I suppose, but he's going to need more than that over the course of the next 2 weeks, and he's not going to get it, you would say. So really, Guillemette is leading this championship by 13 points ahead of Smotherman as they pull away for the formation lap. Martin Wallace is 18 points back, and those are your 3 who are fighting over the championship, really. 2 points per position inside the top 5, other than between first and second, and then 1 point per position outside of that, each, of course, in their respective classes. So that's important to remember here, but it is certainly Guillemette who's in control, although not of this race. Copeland and Smotherman were definitely quicker than him in that qualifying session there.
Yeah, when it comes to being a championship leader and trying to hold on to that points lead, you gotta make sure you don't sweat the small stuff. When it comes to the start of this race, it's going to be oh so important to just keep it clean, keep it on the road, and make sure you can complete that first lap with a rather clean looking race car, especially with turn number 1. Golly, that's gonna be very tough. But if you're a championship points leader, even if you're in a spot that you don't really want to be, if you're a little bit farther back, then set the time that you wanted in qualifying. So vital just to keep your nose to the grindstone, zone. Don't get too flustered about it all. Just say, hey, we've got a very long race here today. I don't have to worry about all the small stuff. There's been so much that I've done right thus far this season. Let me just try and keep it clean and just keep it on the road. I think that's going to be imperative for all of these races. That's part of the reason why I've said it as much as I have thus far in the show, Ewan. We covered the Radical SR10 officials here on Race Spots, and they're running at CTMP a couple of weeks ago. That race was rather hectic, very frenetic, with a lot of racers running into mistakes, even veterans of that series. I feel like whenever CTMP is a fixture of any calendar, doesn't matter what cars are running here, just keeping it clean is usually the main, that's usually top of the agenda.
Yeah, I think in some ways these cars are actually quite similar, especially in terms of speed to those Radicals. Let's hope we get as good of a race as we so often do. A quick thank you, of course, to the sponsors who make Season 11 of the Operation Mosport, eMotorsport iRacing League possible. Of course, Trophy AI, who are returning again for Season 11. And, of course, our partners at CrowdStrike and Michelin. Big thanks for their continued support, as always, along with everybody else who works tirelessly behind the scenes to get this series up and running for its 11th season, and what a finale it's going to turn into as well, especially in the pro class. This championship is hotting up, and Ken Copeland's back. He's hoping for race wins. Smotherman is challenging him all the way as they come across the line now. Wait quite some time. Let's hope everybody in the background's expecting it. They're really stacked up as the green flag now finally waves from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and we are underway north of the border, and it is Ken Copeland who leads out of turn number 1. Then Matt Smotherman into second position, and immediately one of the Aston Martins there slipping up into third. That's Tyler Manning getting back in front of Martin Wallace, who's pushed back to where he started in 4th position on the start of this race. Championship leader Charlie Guillemet safe and sound in 5th position.
And it looks like everybody keeps it clean as they head their way off through turn number 2, usually a bit of a choke point at the start of these races. Now they got to worry about the runoff into Moss Corner, that heavy downhill braking zone with the turn bending in the road as you head your way off through there. And we see already contact being made.
And that is the 12 car, the Mustang going off. Kyle Shelton, who gets loose on the way down the hill there through turn 4 and into the wall as well. We'll speak time and again about the difficulties of Moss Corner, and it's because of turn 4 going downhill over the crest like that makes it very, very difficult indeed. Here comes Guillemet on Wallace into the final sector.
Yes, it was. I thought turn number 5 going to be a choke point, but here we go, side-by-side racing at the end of that. Mario Andretti straight away heading off into 8, 9, and 10 to complete this first lap. The main overtaking opportunity, but you got to have the stones to go side-by-side off through those fast S's. Super tough to try and keep it on the road when you're in a side-by-side situation with killer curbs on the inside that can send your car up in the air and spear you off the road. Very important to keep it clean, keep it smooth, and continue to fight. Nice move there from everybody to keep it clean at the start of this race and keeping it close up at the front still. Smotherman not really allowing Ken Copeland to drive off into the sunset quite yet.
Spin as well, another spin. This time it's another one of the Mustangs. Now, is that camera, is that 35 or 33? I can't quite see it from this distance.
Cameron Burke.
Yeah, looks, or is it Mason Cardinal? It's 33 and 35, and I couldn't tell myself which number that was. Maybe my eyes are going, but Cameron Burke certainly was dropping down there. He's down 6 at least on where he started, and that is a bit of an odd place to find yourself, I must admit, on the sort straight between 2 and 3.
Yeah, I think we'll have to take a look at some of the drama that's already going on. First off, that moment for the 12 of Shelton, as I was expecting, the braking zone down into turn number 5. Super tricky to nail down. You got so many changes of weight transfer in that car, as we see the moment from the 35 contact being made with a Porsche as well. Just losing it coming at turn number 2. That's another worry about the grass runoff area instead of the asphalt that they have in real life there. Super tricky to keep it on the road. If you clip that grass, iRacing doing their magic to make the grass a little bit grippier than it was a matter of a couple of years ago, but it's still not asphalt. It's still not going to grip up that way. You hit that grass and the car's not going to like it.
I think the words I'd use are better balanced, the grass these days. It's not, as you say, it's not tarmac, but it's not ice either, which is a good thing. It was Mason Cardinal indeed, so I don't know why Burke has dropped down 6 places, but he has as well as Cardinal, who went around. I just couldn't spot the difference between the 3 and the 5 on the number there, so apologies for that. But he spins around through that section there. Already nearly 5 minutes into this one, and Ken Copeland still leads half a second in front of Matt Smotherman at the moment, who continues to challenge. Guillemet is back in front front of Wallace, as we saw, and he's now actually on the back of Tyler Manning here. So clearly the race pace for that McLaren looking stronger than the qualifying pace, because Guillemette was absolutely anonymous in qualifying, never looked like getting pole, but now he looks secure in a class podium.
Yeah, trying to have a good start here in this race. Hold on to any sort of spot that he can, and that's the best thing that he can do in the early stages of this event. Everybody getting off to a rather smooth start. I gotta say, I was expecting a bit more drama at the start of this race than we had, but as someone who had the opportunity to cover the Operation Motorsports League in 2 previous seasons leading up to this one, I know the talent pool in this series is rather deep. We've got some great drivers, great competitors, even though this track and car combination is a bit of a handful. These racers had a whole lot of practice. They've been practicing all throughout the week. They've probably been practicing ever since the schedule was revealed, because they knew that this was going to be a tough race. Very clean start. Had to have a couple of blips here and there. Overall throughout the field, very smooth.
Yeah, an All-American or North American schedule, by the way, to this season. We only had one European round that came at the Red Bull Ring at the end of September. About 4 weeks ago today it was. And other than that, a North American schedule, one trip to Canada, which we're enjoying here tonight as Jonathan Labby indeed gets into the back of Justin Bessett here. This is a pro driver trying to overtake an open class driver. At the moment, Bessett is behind Jeremy Jukic, Tyler Reed, Tyler Beeman, Bradley Beeman and Tyler Manning at the front of the field, but not too many of those are close in the championship. Tyler Manning is, but Mason Cardinell, the other one who's really close, has spun, as we've seen already, and Francisco Vega isn't here today, so Bessett is going to gain in that sense. If he gains points on Manning, he'll be champion, I think, or at least if he gains enough, but at the moment he's losing points as Rodney Campbell comes into the pit lane. Of course, pit stops expected in this series, but they could come because of the fuel restrictions as late as the last 5 minutes or so, depending on how much fuel saving each driver decides to do.
And hoping that those blink outs there weren't any sort of UFO activity as he headed his way down pit lane. But the strategy, I mean, we talked about kind of the mindset that you have to have heading off into this race. Think about having to maintain all of the drama going on out there. Hold on to your spots. Think about the championship. Keep it clean. Make sure you don't make any sort of contact. And also have to worry about the strategy as well. Any sort of race here at CTMP, you certainly have to balance a lot of things. But when you throw in fuel strategy into the midst of that as well, these drivers are basically tasked with having to juggle chainsaws from the drop of the green all the way through to the fall of the checkered. Speaking of some close quarter stuff, that's side-by-side racing for third.
Whoa, Guillemette. Oh, so with Tyler Manning, who's and he's just about saved it, Manning. And he's going to be losing places now to his class rivals. Wallace goes through. Bradley Beeman in the open class also goes through here. And Manning's dropped behind Tyler Beeman and Tyler Reed as well. Oh, my goodness. That's a big moment for the open class championship, because Manning needs to gain points on Bessett tonight. He was, as it stood there, gaining over 10. But he's lost all of those now with that big dramatic moment with the Pro Class Championship leader. Whoa! And up in the background, Skylar Fitzroy. This is the contact with Guillemette, by the way. We'll see whether he gets into any trouble there, Guillemette, with the race control. But that is huge for Manning's season, that one.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was mentioning a little bit earlier on in this broadcast with side-by-side racing heading off through the final 3 corners. You can't really do it too smoothly. One driver's going to have to back out of it. Unfortunately, in that situation, neither did. A little bit of curb contact there. That curb on the inside of the second to last turn is so incredibly threatening. Even in these GT3 cars, where you usually expect these competitors to pretty much eat the curbs like cereal for breakfast, that is still very threatening as you head your way up through there. As we take a look, huge wall contact for Skylar Fitzroy. Loses it, ends up in the grass, and nothing that he could do other than just to hold on to the brakes and wait for the wall contact. Fitzroy with a meatball flag. He's had to tow back to the pits. Was running inside the top 10 before that. He is not any more heartbreaking way for Fitzroy's race to end, and a very big gut punch for Tyler Manning as well. For the final 32 minutes of this race, he's going to be on the back foot and will have to try and hold on to any sort of position that he has and make a few up, preferably.
Well, that is completely unideal for Tyler Manning. It really is. At the moment, he would, I think, be scoring 20. I'm trying to work out the maths in my head. 28 points probably, and only gaining 3 on Bessett. Although he will get the one for pole at the end of today. So that would help him gain maybe 4 points as it stands. But when you're looking at a deficit of 29. 4 point. Oh, and he spins into the inside. Sorry, that's Beeman who spins to the inside. Another one of the Aston Martins. So he's gained one back, but Bessett's going to gain him anyway here. Here we go as they come through. Louis Rowe's already through, and there goes Justin Bassett. So as Manning takes one step forward, so does Justin Bassett, because Bradley Beeman spins from the new race lead.
Yeah, I wonder if the outside curb had anything about that. No, it was the inside curb heading off through there. Don't think there's car-to-car contact. Just hit that curb, popped it up. The weight transfer in these cars is oh so important. And if we had a visual cue to see where the center of balance in these race cars was at any given point in time, you would be seeing it just go side to side, left to right, up and down. You'd be seeing it go everywhere. There's so many bumps, so many curbs, so many undulations in the road here at this track that makes it difficult to keep those cars in a straight line. Unfortunately there for Beeman, looked like that curb contact popped it up, caused that weight to shift in a very odd way. He's hit the wall and he's now coming down pit lane, most likely to repair that rear end damage. Just take the high road, make that pit stop around this mark of the race, and just see what he can do in the final 30 minutes.
Well, there's still half an hour to go at least, but it's been a dramatic start to this race, that is for sure. This is a bit further down when Beeman was recovering, and clearly has some rear end damage here because he's letting a few drivers through. Whoa, and he loses control and sideswipes the wall again as well. So that's the engine cover, is it, bobbling down the road? Timmy, lots of trouble, unfortunately, for him, and it's been compounded as well as the battle for 14th place comes up the hill now. Dustin Wells, Chris Glandon and Nicolas Batista. Here comes Glandon to the outside. I think this is his first race, Chris Glandon, as he goes right round the outside and into 14th here. What was a very nice move there indeed.
And that's a move that you got to put on heading off through that part of the track, as here's Batista coming down pit lane in that number 67 car. But yeah, speaking about the moves that you have to pull off heading off through the final few corners, they got to be commanding, and you really have to get it done before you head your way off into turn number 9, and most certainly before you head your way through the final corner. Oh, that's a spin. Speaking of that final series of corners, Philip Chartier spinning in that Corvette off through the second to last corner. So tricky through that part of the racetrack, even without the curb. Gotta be a little bit tricky just to keep that car on the road. Unfortunately for him, he doesn't. Think he made at the very most light contact with that wall, but contact nonetheless. Those final few corners, as much as they are the prime overtaking opportunity, if you go side by side off through there and no driver really backs out of it, as we saw with the moment involving Tyler Manning a little bit earlier on in this race with himself and Tyler Gilmet, can usually end badly if you don't have a little bit of cooperation through there.
And this is on board with Bassett, and this is Ken Copeland who leads the race, by the way. 2 seconds his gap over Matt Smotherman, who's only gaining 2 points as it stands on Tyler Guillemette, so the gap will be 11 points going into the last round. Guillemette, I think, would only require a top 5 in that situation to get the championship win. And when you consider that 6th place in today's race in the pros is quite a long way down, actually retired now, Skyler Vickroy and Rodney Campbell, both, if not retired, then a long time repaired, then you start to understand what a big job that could be for Smotherman if he doesn't go on to win this race, or indeed Guillemette doesn't go on to lose positions in this one. Martin Wallace effectively would be cast out of it as well. 18 points his current gap, but he would lose another couple as it stands because he is behind Tyler Guillemette, so every incentive for him to get involved there as we go back to the beneficiary classes again. Reef Arena, Nolan Uke and John Salada, 1, 2 and 3, 16th, 17th, 18th in the line at the moment. It looks like John Salada's been making up places, up 9 so far.
Cutting his way through the field like a hot knife through butter, getting the moves done and letting all the chaos go on around him. I mentioned how it was a rather clean start, and that it most certainly was, but as we go along throughout this race, these drivers build up their comfort zones. That's usually when those mistakes can creep in. This is one of those tracks where a little bit of overconfidence can really be a killer, so we'll have to see all throughout this race whether or not the mistakes begin to pile up for some, and they say, okay, I think I got this, I think I've cracked the code. That's usually when this track will kick you right on your butt and tell you to think about it one more time.
Well, no change through the final sector this time as we get through a third of this race now. There's 40-minute races here every night here on the Operation Motorsport eMotorsport iRacing League. This is Jonathan Labby, who's in amongst a load of drivers who are not in his class. Not particularly ideal, as Jacob Little tries to close in on him towards turn 3. unable to do that for the moment as well, as this field just begins to spread out a little bit. Tyler Reid's quite close to Tyler Beeman at the front of the open class, but Tyler Manning doesn't seem to have recovered from his spin. He's a couple of seconds away now, and Jeremy Ukit's not that far behind. That was Labby going very wide, and we speak about Moss Corner again. It's a really dangerous corner to be running that wide, and I'm not sure how he's got away with that, really.
I'm not entirely sure either, but hey, you got away with it. That's what matters at the end of the day. You can have those small little trip ups. Just make sure it doesn't end in your car hitting any of the barriers around here. Those tire barriers in real life may be a little bit more soft and cuddly than the concrete walls, but here in iRacing, they are about as hard as tungsten. So if you hit those, you're not going to have a very good day. So just keeping it on the road, as we've said all throughout this broadcast, going to be vital for these drivers. Doesn't matter what sort of championship situation they find themselves in. Doesn't matter what situation in the race they find themselves in. Just keep it clean and you'll be golden, as we see a little bit of flashing the headlights as well. A little bit of gamesmanship that we do see here in these races. Drivers trying to pull off a little bit of mind games on each other. It's been a while since I talked about mind games on one of these broadcasts. I think I'll bring that up as well. Oh, it's running a little bit wide off through turn number 3 there. We just saw him in the number 74 car. Got a little bit of a trip up. Looks like Jacob Little will hold on to that P12 spot for now. But I remember back in my karting days, walking up to one of my competitors, grabbing him by the shoulders and just shaking him to get into his head, and that's Beeman getting down the inside off into turn number 1 over Nicholas Batista to get that move done to jump his way up to P25. Mind games may be strong, but overtakes can be even stronger.
Not sure that's so much getting into his head than getting into his personal space, actually, but there you go.
Yeah, it worked. He's my buddy as well. I might want to make that clear.
Don't just go around to do. I hope you don't go around to doing that, people in the street. But anyway, Carl Shelton tries to follow through here, but can't on the way down the hill. As these guys, of course, all recovering from their various problems today. Nicholas Batista, actually quite recent, unless he's made a stop, I suppose. Which he has, that's why he's back here, and all these guys have. So I don't think Batista's had any problems per se. He's just made his stop early. The other two have had their issues, which they have had to iron out during the pit stop phase. Bradley Beeman especially, who had damage. So did Carl Shelton, as we saw on the opening lap as he spun down the hill through turn number 4. It's the awkward situation, really. You want to... Oh, and a spin! Another spin for Carl Shelton. He gets away with it this time. He gets away with it being just a slide, but it could have been so much worse at the end of that long back straight in towards turn 8.
Yeah, it could have been absolute disaster. It's still not a bed of roses, but it could have been a heck of a lot worse, as these racers still look to try and keep their nose to the grindstone and run the laps away. So don't have to worry about those pit stops coming up here in the not too far off future. We have seen a sprinkling of that thus far, but haven't seen a real decent chunk of this field come down pit lane yet. Emphasis on yet, as they're right now not having to worry about the pit strategy battle in their own head. They're having to worry about the battle on the racetrack, as we got this one for 4th at the moment. Martin Wallace over Tyler Beeman over Tyler Reid, as that's Wallace off of the berm a little bit, hitting the curb on the outside turn number 1. And speaking of the outside, that Tyler Beeman trying to make that move work around the outside off through turn number 2. Not going to be able to make it second and all of that. Tyler Reid going to get dragged into this battle a little bit in that number 47 car. That's the thing about going side by side here. There's really no way to go about it smoothly without slowing you and your competitor down big time.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's all going to help Tyler Manning here, which is good news for him, I suppose. But for these guys, they are all slowing each other up, and that's a very good exit from Tyler Beeman, who surely is going to be looking at that Porsche now as a bit of a sitting duck here. It's not the greatest in the straight line, as we know, and surely there's going to be a chance here for Beeman. There'll be a chance for Jeremy Ukich in the background, by the way, trying to pass Tyler Manning, so it's all happening here. Here comes Beeman, not quite as fast in a straight line as I thought the Aston Martin would be, even with the slipstream. And even despite, I thought the Porsche would be on toast there, actually, on the way towards turn 8, but even with the slipstream, Beeman couldn't really get anywhere near.
See, I'm wondering about the other... as that was another hop of the berm there. Wallace really struggling for grip in that Porsche, as here comes Beeman down the inside off into turn number 1. That's a gutsy opportunity to try and make a move stick there. Yet again, hitting the curb, but this time a little bit less for Wallace. And now we ride on board with Tyler Reid in that number 47 machine. He is smelling blood in the water, seeing these two duke it out right in front of him in some of the most quick sections of this racetrack. They have been playing with fire right in front of them. Oh. That 666 car is really struggling as he once again runs wide. This time through turn number 3, Beeman is applying the pressure big time on the back of that car right in front.
Oh, Wallace out of shape. Reed out of shape as well. Wallace gets stopped in time quite nicely. Reed just about does as well. And Beeman, like watching a replay from the previous lap, he's really close behind that Porsche coming off of Moss Corner. But what about when they get to the end of the straight? That's the key here. As Beeman now gets to the outside. No, he's still in the slipstream, still looking for a way through and just can't at the moment. That Aston Martin nowhere near as good in a straight line as you'd hope it would be. As they come into turn 8 now, Wallace able to defend the inside pretty easily here. And Beeman is going to have to find a different way through because well, maybe that's where the turn 1 move comes out of, because he knows that on the straights his car just isn't quick enough at the moment.
See, I was going to ask you, Ewan, because unfortunately, I've covered a lot of GT3 racing in the past. I pretty much know all the other cars as if it's the back of my hand, but the Aston Martin just added into the service a matter of, I say a couple of weeks ago, the start of the season. It happened 6 weeks ago now. Time flies when you're having fun. But I haven't gotten the opportunity to cover the Aston Martin too much. The only GT3 race I've gotten to cover was one at Montreal, so I didn't really get too big of a memo as to how that Aston Martin actually is running. Looks like every single opportunity he has, it's coming out of the corners as that 666 of Martin Wallace has the bad exits. But outside of that, the Aston Martins look like they're fueled with milk heading down that Mario Andretti straightaway, just really struggling for the straight line speed. Through the corners, though, they are monsters.
I was taking on the Porsche role almost, which is ironic to say, given that they're struggling to find their way past one at the moment. But off the corners, as you say, really strong. Through the corners, really strong as well. Maybe even a bit more stable than the Porsches. But really struggling in a straight line. Now maybe it's just got enough here. Still hasn't got as loads in front by turn 8, but goes around the outside instead. And might well have the place now as we enter the second half of this race. Tyler Beeman, surely he's going to have fourth now, and does. Closes off Martin Wallace, who could see the floodgates open here. Tyler Reid needs to follow through in towards turn number 1 ideally and take a leap out of Beeman's book, but doesn't. Decides to back away and just wait for the moment. That's an interesting call, because now there's a definitive gap created for the open class lead, and it's for the first time in favour of Tyler Beeman.
Yeah, I was thinking, as much as it would have been a good opportunity for Tyler Reid to go for the move off into turn number 1, going for a move into turn 1 at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, I would say it's even more risky than going for a move off into turn 1 at Road Atlanta, because I think of Road Atlanta very similar in terms of high speed turns, really unforgiving exit, no asphalt runoff area to speak of. If you hop the berm through there, you're going to be in for a world of hurt. But it's also downhills. You had your way off into turn number 1 here at CTMP, so frankly, I can fully understand Tyler Reid's perspective, trying to take it easy. But in all of that battling, look at the drivers that they brought in into the midst of that as well. Jeremy Jukic in that number 23 car, not too terribly far behind, less than a second in fact. The gap between those two, Luis Rios is a little bit farther behind, but they've really given themselves a bit of a headache, as I've been waiting for the pit stop to come up here soon, and Ken Copeland from the race lead going to dive down into pit lane.
Seems like a bit of a surprise to me. I mean, it's not the easiest circuit in the world to overtake on, and if you're the leader, you want to make use of the clean air. Of course, the clean air has rapidly become dirtier as the guys who are pitted start to get quite close towards Ken Copeland, but see where he comes out here as he takes a 5.1 second pit stop. That's quite a short one, and he's gotten out into a nice gap actually. Just slips in front of Luis Rios there. 3 seconds or so up to Jeremy Jukic there in 7th place. Not sure, by the way, whether I'm pronouncing that correctly or not. Maybe I'm just taken by the basketball. Anyway, Wallace goes wide, and Tyler Reid has the easiest overtake he'll ever make.
Oh, now look at Tyler Manning. He's trying to go for it. He's smelling blood in the water in that number 14 car. He had the drama earlier on in this race. He wants to make it up, so close to contact as they had their way out of turn number 5. Manning with that frustration a little bit earlier on. He wants to turn that frustration into jubilation at the end. Not going to be a great day for him regardless, unless he can really turn things around in the final 17 and a half minutes. But if he can do damage limitation and try to extend that gap a little bit more, he will be smelling like a bed of roses leaving this race. Look at Manning trying to find any way in the book to get past that Porsche right in front. I gotta wonder what Martin Wallace is thinking for those upcoming pit stops. Would he want to pull in early? Because that pace in that car has fallen down like a Zeppelin on fire.
Yeah, it's interesting that he is losing places at the moment so quickly, because qualified inside the top 3 and was pole sitter provisionally for a little while in that qualifying session, but at the moment is absolutely nowhere near those heights. Zach Merrill, meantime, goes past Luis Rios, who goes into the pit lane as well and is surely cruising to a beneficiary class title as it stands. This is the open class, a little bit further back where Justin Bassett is the championship leader, of course, and at the moment he's only losing about 4 points or so to Tyler Manning, who's currently in third place in the open class. So we'll see what happens with that a little bit later. But on board with Farina here is already up 10 positions in today's race. Not the biggest mover forward though. Dan Fendick is up 16 and into 12th position after the moves made earlier on, and he's right in front of us here as we run aboard with Farina. Two of the biggest movers forward on screen at the moment in 12th and 13th.
Yeah, and as I said a little bit earlier on, in terms of the other hard chargers in this race, just keeping it smooth and clean, avoiding all the chaos going on around them. That's part of the reason why we have so many racers who have maybe not been standing out the most to us, but have just been keeping quietly in the background, putting together a very good race, and running up in a much better spot than they were at the very start. Side-by-side racing as we head our way down into turn number 8. Gutsy stuff to go for a move off in here, but that's really the only spot that you've got, and that right there is a swap-a-roo between those two competitors as Zach Pritchard, the latest come down pit lane, the number 21 machine.
Already quite a long way back, unfortunately, and we'll now take a pit stop quite early in the lane. So far, the shortest stop was for Ken Copeland, 5.1 seconds. We've seen very big varying pit times in this series, by the way, over the course of this season, which has really defined races, actually. Certainly defined the race last week. And a finish between Ken Copeland and I think Tyler Manning, who was at the front of the field. They came across the line having made contact with each other, and one of them backwards, but that's for another day. It was very, very exciting indeed. If you haven't seen the finish to last week's races, here's a look. Whoa! Moss corner, that's not really where you want to be making a look down the inside there, but Fendick got past Burke, and Farina wanted to as well.
Yeah, you can tell that was a very close quarters moment as they headed their way through turn number 5, based off the fact it sounded like I sat on a cold toilet seat. These racers always go for the gutsy moves into the second part of turn number 5. It's marked off as one turn. It really is two. It also does kind of feel like one, depending on what sort of line that you take there. That adds to the intrigue. It adds to the chaos as you head your way off through there. So many varied lines that these competitors take as they head their way off through turn number 5 does spawn the opportunity to go for a move there before you head your way off onto that Mario Andretti straightaway, but also creates an opportunity for some chaos to break out there as well. We've seen many close calls heading off into turn number 5. I feel like if we kept track of all the close calls that we've had thus far tonight, we'd probably be out of paper and out of ink. However, I think most of them have gone on heading down into turn number 5 from the sketchy braking zone where you're turning, going downhill, having to deal with very patchy asphalt and hit the brakes. Is that right there running wide through turn number 3? Not going to help out his case one bit for Farina and that number 69 car. 4 wide Motorsports. He went about 4 car widths off into the dirt as he headed his way off through there. Yeah, turn 5, probably the sketchiest corner on this racetrack by far, and these races have proved that tonight.
Well, 1/3 distance still remains then. Just over 13 minutes here from Mosport as Ken Copeland was catching up to Jeremy Jukic. He just comes into pit lane, so Copeland gets away with that and will still be the overall leader, I think, but if he gets held up a lot by some slower class drivers, then it could be a problem. Here comes Jukic to a stop, as you can see, in this rather short pit lane. 5.1 was the stop from Copeland, and this is going to go on a lot longer than that, as has been customary in this season. This is Jonathan Labby on the back of Jacob Little in towards the final few corners as well. Little able to keep 16th position at the moment, and with still 12 of the top 14 to come in, it's a bit of a debate really as to how many of these battles are really real. Well, this one is, but for what position it will be later on, still a bit of a mystery.
Actually, on the subject of racers that we've seen come down pit lane, I wonder if we could at all do a quick little sanity check on Ken Copeland, see how he's going at this point of the race. We saw him come down pit lane from the race lead a little bit earlier on, finds himself in a nice cushion with about 3 seconds farther up the road to find Tyler Manning and Justin Bassett a little bit farther behind him. So I think Copeland actually played that call to come down pit lane quite well. You said at the time, that was a bit of an early call to come into the pits. Either way, though, if it was an early call, it may not have exactly been a bad one, because he finds himself in what everybody would call pit exit heaven, nobody around him. He is pretty much on an island of his own, which, you know, if he was trying to get off that island and had no mechanical sympathy, that would be a bit of an issue. But right now, he just wants to have some clean air, have some running by himself, and that's exactly what he's getting in that number 15 car. So Copeland, they have played that out to perfection. We'll have to see how the pit stops roll for everybody else a little bit farther up the road, but I think Copeland really did himself some favors with that early call to pits.
Yeah, it's looking like a bit of genius at the moment, isn't it? With the lap traffic also coming up to him at that stage, so that's probably one of the motivations for him pitting so early. And as you say, I certainly would question it at the time, and looks like he's been absolutely proven correct on this front, as he so often is. Kane Copeland's too far away to really feature in this championship now, unfortunately, but he will move up in front of the likes of Gene Kelly after today. Not that that really matters. It's about the race win today as Tyler Beeman and Tyler Reid come in. Tyler Manning will go through to the open class lead, but he needs this overcut to really work for him now, because the points he lost in that spin after contact with Tyler Goodermatt would be so costly to his championship. If he's serious about overtaking Justin Bassett here in the final couple of rounds, he has got to get something out of this race, and a short final stop would absolutely do that for him, because Beeman's stop was 7.4 and Reid's is going over 10 seconds. This is very possible now for Tyler Manning to gain some places.
Yeah, so if Manning can make this work on that number 14 car, utilize his strategy to his advantage, that would be an absolute masterstroke from him. Here in these races in the Operation eMotorsports Racing League, it is so imperative for these competitors to nail down that pit strategy. Doubly so around a racetrack like this. We've talked about the troubles of trying to get a move done off through that final sector. Frankly, it is a bit more of a high percentage move to say, you know what, I'm going to sit behind, get that better fuel number, get a little bit of drift, save some gas, and then try and jump ahead through the pit stop. So I think that may be the call that some of these racers have decided to make here tonight. As we jump back to a battle right now, this is for P17 Bradley Beeman, currently chasing down his fellow Aston Martin right in front of him. We'll have to see how this battle is going to duke out between these two competitors, as we're now officially into the final 9.5 minutes of this race. It's himself and Dustin Wells battling as they head their way off through turn number 5, and they are no longer alone in this battle. Look at that BMW hounding them right behind. I believe that's Nicholas Batista.
Yep, it is just behind them. Batista having made a very early stop 15 laps ago. His stop was made. Beeman also trying to recover positions here. Aston Martin on Aston Martin might make the job a bit easier for Beeman than what he was finding it earlier with Martin Wallace in front of him, but not on this occasion. Tyler Beeman, by the way, gets back in front of Zach Merrill, who hasn't stopped yet. Martin Wallace is still behind Beeman. Tyler Reid, though, is behind Wallace now, and 3 seconds in front of Jukic in the open class field as Beeman comes down the inside here at turn 1. He just seemed to like giving this a go, and it's not quite done yet. The two Aston Martins still side by side, and actually loses out on the exit there, so has to go away and try again.
So first try is not the charm there. We'll still have a decent amount of opportunities for these two to have a swap-a-roo of spots. As speaking of a swap-a-roo of spots, here's some side-by-side racing going on with the 15 and the 14. That's Ken Copeland getting past Tyler Manning to jump his way back up into the overall podium for Copeland. Manning still holding on to the lead as it stands right now in the open category, but still has to worry about those pit stops here soon. We jump back to this battle involving Dustin Wells. You know how I said this was a 2-car battle not too long ago? Now 4-car battle, so that certainly changes the dynamic quite a lot. These two Astons go side by side with a BMW and a Mustang running right behind them.
Yeah, there's another BMW not too far away either, Nolan Nuke, who's 21st, as these two go side by side into the final sector. Oh, and he is there. Outside line here, right round for Justin Wells. He tries to retake this again from Beeman, who goes round the outside himself at the penultimate corner, and he gets this position back in front of Justin Wells. Then Nicholas Batista, then Mason Cardinal, who's 20th and still recovering, and then Nolan Nuke, who's 21st. There goes Cardinal down the inside as well. He's not going to manage it, I don't think. Beeman only went a little bit wide there. He'll get away with that. It's been a decent recovery from Cardinal. He will have lost a lot of time in that spin through this corner right here, coming out of here and in towards turn 3 as well. And he's looking for a way past this BMW just in front. Slightly misses the apex. As out front in this class, the most important pit stop remaining in this race, Tyler Manning comes in from the lead of the open class.
Yeah, so let's keep an eye to see how long Tyler Manning spends down in pit lane. He has to worry about making any sort of pit lane related mistakes. Bassett going to jump in front of him, so that is going to be the swap-a-roo for the lead in the open category as it stands right now. But Manning, will he be able to come out in a decent period of time? Let's look at the pit stop time. Let's look at the pit lane time from him. This is long. This is lengthy for Manning. This is not helping his case out one bit.
He's up on the jacks. What is he doing there? And has he made a mistake by not unchecking his tyres here? He's behind UKIT now. There goes Fendick, who hasn't stopped yet, so not too much to worry about there. Same for Rufarina. But he might well have lost the place to even Justin Bassett now. What a disaster that is. I mean, I don't think I can think of any circumstances, Ron, where I could... Oh, and he's off now with the cold tyres. I don't think I can think of any circumstances where you could justify making a tyre change in 40 minutes. It has to be an admin error there where he's forgot to uncheck the tyre change and it's cost him dearly.
You know, I mentioned right before we saw him come down pit lane, or actually right as he came down pit lane, my apologies, you got to worry about making those mistakes in the pits. Now, whether that be down to a pit lane entry penalty, a pit lane exit penalty, pit lane speeding, or just clicking the wrong button, putting on some tires when you don't really need them, that's exactly what I warned about. That's exactly what happened right there. Could be a matter of pixels. That's the thing about iRacing that sets it apart from real life. In real life, you've got whole strategy teams running the numbers behind the scenes, trying to figure out when you should come down pit lane, what you should do in the pits, and all of that information. You don't have that in iRacing. You do have it for some teams, but for these drivers just running their own program, they have to worry about it running out there on the racetrack at full speed, battling their own battles, and also having to worry about going through their black box, clicking the buttons, and making sure that they don't take tires. It's a very easy mistake to make, to be sure, but an incredibly costly one for Tyler Manning in a race that was already going a little bit sour for him. Look to try and claw things back through the pits. Not going to be able to do that.
Well, forget about it now. As far as Bassett is concerned, he's going to gain a couple of points here with Justin Bassett. The gap at the start of the day, as I mentioned earlier, was 29. It will grow to 31. And that pretty much, as long as Bassett starts and finishes the race next week, pretty much ends all trouble for Manning, because it could have been, and he's actually behind Rios now, Louis Rios, the beneficiary class driver, who's going to seal his title tonight. Bassett is going to put more than one hand on, I'll say one hand and four fingertips maybe, on the trophy, just to fully clasp it next week and take the title. It's not mathematical certainty just yet, but he's getting very, very close to it now, is Justin Bassett. In the pro standings, it's going to lose a couple of points to Matt Smugman. So it will get a couple points closer, but not too many. Smugman does actually have the fastest lap at the moment as well, so that would mean he gains 3 actually. So he'd be 10 points behind. Again, Guillemette would be fine with a top 5 as long as there's no bonus points involved. Definitely a top 4 would be fine. And again, look at the top 4 compared to the gap they've got for the rest. It's very much in Guillemette's hands as well. If he had for example, if he had a top 4 requirement in this race, look at the amount of positions he would be able to lose. He'd be able to lose more than 20 seconds, in fact, more than 30 seconds even, and he'd still be in 4th place in the class. So he's comfortable-ish in the pro class as well, although this is points lost for him. At least Swubman has done his job of gaining a little bit there.
And it's still not entirely over for Smotherman just yet. If there is a mistake from Ken Copeland, that 4-second gap could disappear in the blink of an eye. Not going to be betting on it, though. Copeland has driven a very clean race up to this point. I know the driver that he is. He's a smooth one, so keep an eye on him just to bring it home as we jump back to this battle here. Loving Louis Rios. This is side-by-side battling for the final spot inside the top 10. Tyler Manning looking to try and claw back some dignity, claw back some spots, and damage limitation yet again here in this race. Gets that move done to jump his way up into 10th. Rios now gonna have to worry about this battle. This is actually for the lead in the Ben category. As you can see, Chris Galden right in the midst of that.
Yeah, this is a brilliant drive from Chris Galden so far. He's pitted already, by the way, so no need to worry about that. It's not 15 positions gained out of that, it's legitimate ones as well. And he is challenging Louis Rios at the moment, who is going to be the champion at the end of tonight as things stand. There, meanwhile, goes down the inside of one of the McLarens. A little bit of a look from Jonathan Labby, who's one of the pro class drivers. Then Jacob Little is next in line, who's an open class driver. All 3 classes on show at the moment, coming down the hill here. And Labby is not going to be able to get past in towards Moss Corner. Another look, no, Labby can't get down the inside there either. Rios, though, under serious pressure at the end of this race.
Yeah, Rios, who was putting together a very smooth drive, really hasn't put a foot wrong up to this point. It's just been a commanding race for his other competitors in that beneficiary category, and Rios now going to have to worry about the challenges as we get closer and closer to the end of this race. I think we're now on about 2 laps left to go for Ken Copeland. Going to be taking the white flag next time by, I believe. But either way, Rios not out of the woodwork just yet. He has to worry about a challenge at any point in time. Thankfully, though, the time is slowly but surely running out. May not seem like a lot of time, but for Luis Rios, that final minute and 8 seconds left on the clock is going to feel like a lifetime.
Well, it certainly won't for Ken Copeland. He's got a minute to go and he's about to cross the line to receive the white flag. But Rios, it certainly will feel like a lifeline for him. In towards turn 3. Bit tighter to the apex there, Glands as well, looking really fast. Be interesting to find out from him where this speed has come from in the race compared to qualifying, where he wasn't quite as strong as they come down the hill. The white flag is not for them, by the way. They will receive the white flag next time round. And can Glandon find a way through anywhere here as he comes out of the Moss Corner, right in the slipstream of that big Mustang, and he's going to be able to get alongside very early on in the straight here, and Glandon is going to have a good chance of getting this position here and a top 10 overall as well, as Luis Rios goes on the defensive. He holds the inside line. The champion in waiting of the beneficiary class for season 11 is under big challenge here from Mosport in this race-winning battle. Outside line for Glandon, right round there in turn 8, and he's got it into turn 9. What a great move that is. He turns the outside to the inside for the final turns, and he leads with 1 lap to go.
No, he runs a little bit off into the dirt as he headed his way through the final corner, so he's not out of the woodwork just yet, but what a stunner of an overtake from the driver of the number 27 car. That was commanding, gutsy. He kept it clean. That was one of the best moves I've ever seen here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. That, I don't care who you are, that was awesome.
That was absolutely fantastic, as has the drive been from Ken Copeland here, by the way. His gap diminishing towards the finish, but that shouldn't matter. He's going to flash his lights, cross the line, and win again in the Operation Motorsport eMotorsport iRacing League here from Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. It's 1.3 at the line from Matt Smotherman, who gains just 3 points on Guillemette at the line. That will reduce the deficit to 10 going into the final race of the season. Tyler Beeman will win in the open class, about 20 seconds further down, as Tyler Manning loses points to Justin Bessett in the open class fight. Bessett with one hand on the trophy there, and Luis Rios is about to be confirmed as champion here, although not under the circumstances that he would have wanted. The beneficiary class win is going to go up the road to Chris Glandon by the looks of things, as Rios has to put on the defence here, even to keep 11th. It's a great second last lap pass from Chris Glandon, who wins the beneficiary class here tonight from Mosport. A great finish between those two, and in the battle for 11th, did he get there? Just about. Luis Rios did. He finishes in front of Jonathan Labby and Jacob Little, who were crawling all over him at the end. A great finish to the beneficiary class, especially there with that late pass.
What an awesome overtake. That's going to stick with me for a while. It's still a celebratory day for Luis Rios. He could have tasted the champagne in class. I mean, he's still got to walk away with a P2 in that beneficiary category, so it's not doom and gloom for him at all. But, man, still a great season from Luis Rios. A great drive in this race from Chris Glandon. What a race that we just saw here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. We talked at length about the challenge of this track, and while that most certainly came out at many points in time, those racers kept it clean, as they so often do here in this series. As I said a little bit earlier on, got the opportunity to cover all of season 9, a decent chunk of season 10, and here season 11. I absolutely adore this series of drivers in this championship. Incredible, really, all throughout all of the classes. They put on good racing, they put on good shows, and they keep it clean as well. They certainly did that here in the challenge at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. But this man, Ken Copeland, in that very nice looking wrong stuff Corvette, gonna see that checkered flag in first.
Well, indeed, he does. 1.3 seconds in front of Matt Smotherman in the end, who reduces Tyler Guillemette's championship lead in the pro class. Tyler Beeman wins in the opens ahead of Martin Wallace, who rounds out the top 5. It is Tyler Reid then second, ahead of Shami Ukic third in the open class. Justin Bessett gains on Tyler Manning again here and definitely puts one hand on the trophy with more than 30 points of a gap over the rest. Chris Glandon wins in the beneficiary class with a top 10 overall. 11th place went to Luis Rios in the end. A great job from him to seal the title around early. Jonathan Labby 12th, and Jacob Little, Bradley Veerman and Zach Merrill running up the top 15. Nicholas Batista is 16th, but Mason Cardinal, who spun on the second lap, I believe. Nolan Nuke finishes 18th ahead of Justin Wells and Cameron Burke running up the top 20. Dan Fendick and Rui Farina were the last drivers inside the lead lap, with Eric Knight, John Hicks, Philip Chartier 1 lap down. Carl Shelton, John Salada, Zach Pritchard, Skylar Vicroy and Rodney Campbell all retired from the race early. Let's have a chat to Chris Glandon, shall we, at the end of that race. So what a fantastic race.
Yeah, man.
It was. Sorry, Chris, I've just interrupted your conversation.
That's okay. I was just talking to Lewis.
Yeah, I can imagine you've got a lot to talk about as well. What a great battle that was. Tell us about it in those final few laps.
To be honest with you, I wasn't sure. I didn't know that. I should have looked at the standings and that. I wasn't sure. I didn't know I was fighting with him as a beneficiary. I would have let him finish that race ahead of me. I think he did have a bit more pace on me. So, but all in all, it was a great race. I really enjoyed that.
You were, I think, you were our biggest mover forward in the whole field today, regardless of class, up 16 places in the race. What was it about your race speed that was clearly quicker than your qualifying pace we saw in the first session? What changed between those two?
Well, I didn't have a whole lot of warm-up. I didn't really practice for this race this week. I just got back from Europe a couple days ago. I was gone for a month, so I was pretty rusty, to be honest with you. So after a few laps, I started getting a bit more pace and getting more comfortable with the car and the track and all that. So I think that helped out a lot for me.
Well, congratulations on taking the win tonight. It was a great fight to see the both of you, and once again, thanks for coming to chat to us, and congratulations again.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thanks very much. That is Chris Glandon, who wins tonight in the beneficiaries class. We interrupted his chat to Luis Rios, who we can now bring in as well. Louis, welcome in. Good to have you with us, and congratulations on a second place finish in the beneficiary class, which should see you have enough points now to close out the title as well, but I can't imagine that's foremost of your thoughts at the moment. Tell us about those last lap battles there for the win with Chris.
Chris had an incredible pace, and I think we're seeing some of my demons come up again as far as consistency goes. Not being able to hold the same pace throughout the race, or the same pace that I show in the qualifying. So, yeah. Another tough second place, but that's part of it.
And it's more points, of course, as well. As far as consistency across the classes go, you're right up there with the other classes as well. And as I say, you've got enough points now to seal the title as well. So how sort of pleased are you of the season you've had, or is it sort of a reflection on things you can do better that you're already doing?
I think a bit of both. Definitely happy about potentially getting the win for the Ben class this season. But definitely going to be going over a lot of the issues that I've been showing, and definitely working on them in the off season.
Well, we look forward to seeing you again, of course, hopefully next week in the final race of the season. But thanks for chatting to us, Louis, as always, and congratulations on second place tonight.
Thank you guys so much. I love watching the broadcast back, so thank you guys for putting on a great broadcast. Thank you to Opmo for also putting this on, because, man, it's so fun to race with these guys. It's always a great time. And thank you to all the sponsors for making all this possible. Take care, guys.
Thanks very much, Louis Rios. Second place tonight in the beneficiary class here from Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Unfortunately, our other podium driver from the beneficiary class doesn't look like we're going to be joined. So, time to say goodbye and indeed welcome you to next week, I suppose, from Virginia International Raceway, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on October the 28th. Clocks are changing around the world at this time of year, so check your local timing for that and don't miss the broadcast. It's going to be a great final round as we settle especially the Pro Class Championship, which between Tyler Goodermet and Matt Smotherman is going to be a very exciting fight. I hope you've enjoyed the show tonight here from Racebot TV. It's been fun to be along once again in the Operation Motorsport eMotorsport iRacing League for round 8 from Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Make sure you join us again next week from VIR, but for now, from myself, Ian Leary, Ron Mounds and Hugo Louise behind the cameras, it's goodbye from Mosport. We'll see you in 1 week's time for the finale.